Humanity has always wondered what the first contact with intelligent extraterrestrial life would look like. For centuries, philosophers, scientists, and storytellers have speculated about that moment, whether it would be peaceful, hostile, or simply confusing. The truth is, we can only build scenarios based on our history, our scientific understanding, and the patterns of how human civilizations have encountered one another. Examining those examples may give us some clues about how an actual first contact could unfold. Let's begin with history. Every time two previously unconnected human societies encountered each other, the event was dramatic. When Europeans reached the Americas in the 15th and 16th centuries, it led to massive cultural shifts, tragic epidemics, and the reordering of global trade. When explorers arrived in the Pacific Islands, they brought technologies and diseases that reshaped entire populations. These encounters remind us of two things. First, that the more technologically advanced culture tends to dominate. And second, that misunderstandings are inevitable when communication systems and worldviews are completely different. If this is true for humans meeting humans, what happens when humans meet a species from another star system? Scientists have considered this question seriously for decades. In 1960, astronomer Frank Drake performed the first modern scientific search for extraterrestrial intelligence, pointing a radio telescope at nearby stars in the hope of hearing a signal. This grew into SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The famous Drake equation, created by Drake in 1961, tried to estimate how many civilizations might exist in our galaxy capable of communication. Depending on the variables, the answer ranges from millions to just us. Yet if even one other civilization exists, the odds of eventual contact increase over cosmic timescales. We have already tried to make the first move. In 1974, the Arecibo radio telescope sent a powerful binary message into space, directed toward a star cluster 25,000 light-years away. The message contained simple information about humanity. Numbers, atomic numbers of key elements, a stick figure of a human, and the design of the telescope itself. Later, in the 1970s, NASA's Voyager probes carried the Golden Record, an actual physical message for anyone who might find the spacecraft drifting between the stars. The record includes greetings in dozens of languages, images of Earth, and even music ranging from Bach to Chuck Berry. These projects show that humanity has long anticipated first contact, even if it might not happen for thousands or millions of years. But what if it happened tomorrow? The immediate question is, how would we know? Astronomers believe that if aliens made contact, it would most likely come in the form of a signal, not a spaceship. Radio waves, laser pulses, or some form of electromagnetic communication is the most efficient way to bridge interstellar distances. In fact, SETI has already recorded strange signals, like the famous WOW signal detected in 1977, an unexplained radio burst from deep space that lasted 72 seconds. It never repeated, and to this day remains a mystery. If such a signal repeated tomorrow, and experts verified it was artificial, that would already count as first contact. The world's media would erupt, governments would convene emergency meetings, and humanity would face the reality that we are not alone. If contact took the form of an actual arrival, a ship entering Earth orbit, the challenges would multiply. Communication would be the first hurdle. The human languages already create confusion between cultures. Imagine attempting dialogue with beings that evolved on another world, with senses and perceptions completely unlike ours. Scientists have suggested that mathematics could serve as the universal language. Prime numbers, geometric patterns, and constants like pi are the same everywhere in the universe. Carl Sagan often emphasized that any intelligent species would recognize these concepts. Music and visual symbols could also help. Still, even with these tools, misinterpretation is likely. Another crucial question is, who speaks for Earth? History shows that first encounters are rarely equal. When advanced Europeans met indigenous cultures, power imbalances led to exploitation. To avoid repeating these mistakes on a cosmic scale, humanity would need a coordinated response. The United Nations has occasionally discussed this issue, and organizations like the International Academy of Astronautics have drafted protocols for handling extraterrestrial contact. These suggest transparency, international cooperation, and careful scientific analysis before any political or military decisions are made. Yet, in practice, nations might compete for influence. Would the United States demand to lead, given its space program? Would China, Russia, or Europe insist on equal voices? Could smaller nations argue for neutral representation? These debates could prove as difficult as the contact itself. The psychological impact would be profound. In 1938, Orson Welles' radio broadcast of the War of the Worlds caused panic in parts of the United States, even though it was fictional. Imagine the real announcement that alien life had arrived. Some people would panic, fearing invasion. Others would celebrate, seeing proof that humanity is part of a larger community of intelligence. Religious groups would wrestle with questions of theology. How do aliens fit into beliefs about creation? Philosophers would debate humanity's place in the cosmos. The discovery would challenge identities, governments, and worldviews. There is also the question of motives. Why would aliens come here? Popular culture often assumes conquest, as in Independence Day or War of the Worlds. But realistically, Earth has little to offer an advanced species in terms of raw resources. Water, metals, and energy exist throughout the galaxy. More plausible motives might include curiosity, science, or even diplomacy. Just as we send probes to study Mars or Europa, aliens might study Earth out of pure exploration. Another possibility is that they would come to warn us, perhaps having observed our environmental damage or nuclear weapons testing. In this sense, first contact might be less about us gaining from them and more about them urging us not to destroy ourselves. Examples from history again give us clues. When civilizations with different technologies met, outcomes ranged from peaceful trade to colonization. The Polynesians encountered visiting Europeans in the 18th century with a mix of awe and caution. Japan, during its first encounters with Portuguese traders, initially welcomed firearms and trade, but later chose isolation. The lesson is that human reactions vary depending on context, leadership, and perceived threat. If aliens arrive peacefully, humanity might respond with diplomacy and cooperation. If they appeared threatening, even unintentionally, fear could escalate into conflict. Science fiction has explored many scenarios. In Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, aliens arrive peacefully, but transform humanity in ways beyond comprehension. In Contact, by Carl Sagan, the encounter is subtle, occurring through coded messages that require humanity to work together. These stories remind us that contact may not fit Hollywood's images of battleships and laser wars. It could be intellectual, slow, and symbolic rather than physical. One practical concern would be security. Any visiting ship would likely be far beyond our technological level. Humanity has no realistic defense against an advanced civilization capable of interstellar travel. Military leaders would undoubtedly prepare, but scientists generally argue that if aliens can cross the stars, they are already so advanced that resistance would be futile. This raises the question, would their ethics also be advanced? Optimists believe that to survive long enough to achieve interstellar travel, a civilization must have solved many of its own conflicts. Pessimists counter that survival doesn't guarantee kindness. Public reaction would also split along cultural lines. Some societies might see contact as confirmation of ancient traditions. For example, many myths describe sky beings or gods arriving from the heavens. Others might view aliens as dangerous outsiders. The diversity of human cultures means no single global response could ever represent everyone. The contact moment would highlight both our unity and our divisions. Economically, first contact would change everything. Stock markets would fluctuate wildly. Industries related to defense, space exploration, and technology would surge. Tourism to any landing site would skyrocket. But there could also be panic selling, fear of disruption, and questions about long-term stability. Even rumors of alien technology could destabilize economies. Education and science would transform. Imagine children growing up knowing that other intelligences exist. Space exploration budgets would likely increase. Collaboration between nations might accelerate, driven by the realization that humanity is not alone. Just as the Apollo missions inspired generations of scientists, first contact would ignite a new era of curiosity. Universities would add alien studies, linguistics programs would focus on interspecies communication, and philosophy classes would debate the ethics of interacting with other sentient beings. Yet dangers remain. Miscommunication is one. In 1983, the world nearly suffered a nuclear exchange because a Soviet officer misinterpreted computer warnings of a US missile launch. He chose to wait, and the alarm turned out to be false. If humans can make such errors among themselves, imagine the stakes when communicating with aliens. A gesture meant as peace might be seen as aggression. A signal meant as curiosity might be seen as a threat. Preventing misunderstandings would be critical. There is also the possibility of cultural shock. When ancient societies encountered new ideas, such as Christianity spreading across Europe or Buddhism across Asia, it reshaped their cultures. Aliens might bring technologies, philosophies, or art forms beyond our comprehension. Even if peaceful, the exposure could destabilize traditions and identities. Some groups might embrace alien knowledge, others might reject it fiercely. The diversity of reactions could lead to internal conflicts within humanity. Another point worth considering is the role of technology in detecting contact. Today, telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope can analyze the atmospheres of exoplanets, searching for biosignatures, chemical hints of life. If we find oxygen or methane in the right balance on a distant planet, it may suggest life exists there. A confirmed detection would not be the same as contact, but it would prepare us for the idea. Step by step, science is making the discovery of life elsewhere increasingly plausible. The role of time must also be emphasized. Civilizations rise and fall. On Earth, empires like Rome, the Maya, and ancient Egypt flourished and then declined. If alien civilizations exist, some may have already vanished, others may not yet have emerged, and some may last for millions of years. Our window for contact may be narrow. That makes the question urgent. What choices must we make now so that when contact does happen, humanity is ready? In the end, first contact is as much about us as about them. It would reflect our fears, our hopes, and our ability to adapt. Whether it happens through a faint radio signal from a distant star or a massive ship appearing in our skies, the event would mark the greatest turning point in human history. It would force us to confront questions about who we are, how we live, and what role we play in the cosmos. The moment may not come tomorrow or even in our lifetimes, but preparing for it by studying history, expanding science, and learning cooperation may be the most important step we can take. Humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial life would not simply be a meeting between species. It would be a mirror, showing us our own strengths and weaknesses, and challenging us to grow into a civilization worthy of speaking for Earth.